Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, November the 21st. And welcome to our commentary 1 week to go to Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's getting ready. And if you're traveling for Thanksgiving, well, get to the airport on time because it's a pretty busy day or pretty busy week, as they say, to travel. Well, the big shocker, of course, I don't know how much of a shock it was, to be honest with you. But, the breaking story, as they like to say, is that Representative Gaetz has pulled out of the Attorney General confirmation. He said that he doesn't want to be a distraction and so on and so on. Now, as all of you know, if you've been watching these videos or reading my posts over at American Thinker, I didn't think this was the best selection, not because I'm opposed to Matt Gaetz. He's not my congressman. I don't really know that much about him. But I just didn't think that he was the best selection for this job. I just feel that he would have been too controversial, too much drama. I think the confirmation process would have been too dramatic and way too dramatic at a time when President Trump doesn't need it. He doesn't need dramatics right now. He's got the strongest political position that he's ever been in. In fact, I think you have to go back to maybe President Bush in 2004, or maybe Ronald Reagan in 1984, President Reagan, after their re-elections, to remember a time when a president was stronger than this. Now, I know that President Obama was re-elected fairly easily, but you never got the sense that he had a lot of political capital. He was always kind of cautious in how he did things. But, Reagan went to work right away, and definitely I think Trump will. So he needs a team. He doesn't need the controversy right now. He doesn't need Republican senators in the Senate voting against Gaetz. He doesn't need any of this. So I think it was a good move on the part of Gaetz to pull out. Now, some may say that maybe there was some information that was going to be released about him. Maybe, but at the same time, I think that information would have been released by now. If it was really, really damaging, I think we would know it by now. So I don't think it was that so much. I just don't think that the country needed the drama that would have come with this. So I'm glad that he pulled out. Actually, I think it was a good move on the part of Gaetz to pull out and let President Trump nominate somebody who will just fly through, someone who won't be controversial, but someone who will be just as effective in cleaning up the Department of Justice. And that's really what we need. We got to have somebody who's going to go in there and clean up the Department of Justice. We have some real problems over at the Department of Justice, some real problems. I think there's too many activists working in that department, and we need to clean it up. Now, there's two names that I just saw, potential replacements. Senator Mike Lee from Utah, that would be excellent. He's a real constitutional man. He would be great. Now, he's not a controversial kind of guy, but he's 100% conservative, and he would be great. And the other name, and I really like this guy, Attorney General Bailey of the state of Missouri, who has been at the forefront of many of these battles with the federal government and against the Biden administration, representing the state of Missouri. I know that Missouri and Texas and other states have been involved in some of these joint cases against the Biden administration. I think Bailey would be great. So either one of these two, Senator Lee or Attorney General Bailey from Missouri, I think would be really, really good. Let me say good afternoon and hello to some people checking in. Thank you for checking in. So I think any of those guys would be good, would be a good replacement. There is also the Attorney General of Florida, a lady by the name of Pam Boundy, I think, or Bouncy or Boundy, I think is her name. She would be very good also. She would be excellent. I had thought about Senator Cruz from Texas as a very good choice for Attorney General. But I have not heard his name being mentioned at the moment, but I think he would be a fabulous choice as well. But any of these guys, whether it's Bailey, whether it's Lee, Attorney General Bailey from Missouri, Senator Lee from Utah, the Attorney General from Florida, Boundy, any of these people, I think, would be good and would sail through. And President Trump would be able to accomplish the very same things that, if not better, than he would have accomplished with Adam Gaetz. So I think it's a good move on the part of Gaetz. And let's move on now. Let's move on to the real nomination here of an attorney general, which it's an extremely important job. And this is an extremely important moment for the Department of Justice to clean up itself after the experience that we've had. Let me just point out that I have a post over at the American Thinker today talking about Mexico and the fact that Moody's, the investment company, has downgraded Mexico. And they're concerned about the spending. They're concerned about some of the battles with the judicial system and the judges. They're worried about the uncertainty. So they've downgraded Mexico. And that's not good. That's not good for Mexico. So that's I have a post about that over at the American Thinker. And I've got a post coming out tomorrow, and I was going to be talking about this primarily today, except that, of course, the Representative Gaetz story broke. But I have a post about MSNBC. If you're not familiar with MSNBC, it's one of the cable news channels here in the United States. And apparently their days are counted. NBC, the parent company, well, actually, I think it's Comcast is the parent company, but NBC is the news company that runs MSNBC. Apparently, they're cutting ties with MSNBC, which means that there's nothing to support MSNBC, because then all they would have is these talk shows, but they wouldn't have the expertise and the reporters and all the background information of NBC to work with. And apparently MSNBC is out, or they're cutting ties with NBC. And that pretty much means that the end of MSNBC. At some time in the future, it will cease to exist, or it'll have to be remade in some form. Somebody's going to have to buy it or whatever. And let's see what happens. But I think the problems with MSNBC is that they became basically a cable news channel of people who just spend too much time hating. You can be liberal, you can be left center, you can be whatever you want to be. But when you're sitting there in these programs night after night after night, just hating Trump and going beyond political disagreements, just hating Trump and hating the people who voted for Trump. So you become a hate network, basically. That's all you are, just a hate network. You get to a point where after a while, it gets boring. Watching this thing gets boring. And you say, I'm going to flip it and watch something else that isn't so predictable. And I think that's what the problem with MSNBC was. It just became a predictable network where they were just going to be hating Trump every single night. And after a while, people get bored with that kind of thing. So I think that's what really did him in. The fact that they became nothing but a network of haters. And they were hating Trump too much, way beyond what is reasonable. Again, you can disagree with people. When you start hating people and calling people racist and making all kinds of accusations about people who voted for Trump, you're going to lose that audience, obviously. But eventually you're going to lose even your own people because they get bored with the same garbage every single night. So I think, MSNBC's done. And how they come back, I don't know. They may come back with a new buyer. That could happen, and then they'll continue doing what they're doing. I don't think they're going to be able to generate the kind of sources of revenue that they do right now, because right now they've got the support of NBC, and it's not just the financial support of NBC. I mean, they've got the reporters, the news organization. I mean, when you're backed up by NBC, that means a lot to your programming. So I don't think that that's going to be replaced. But anyway, MSNBC, the network that we've known here for quite some time as, I think for many of us, the crazy liberal network, will cease to exist sometime soon. I don't know when. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. I don't know. But their days are counted. It could be even less than that. And we'll see what happens. But it's a good lesson. I think it's a good lesson for people We can disagree, but when we start hating each other, then I think you lose a lot of good people, who are not into that. They're not into hating people just because you disagree politically with them. One issue that I wanted to touch on here is this controversy in the U.S. House. There is a new congressperson from Delaware who will take over in January. And the person is a man who now identifies as a woman. I don't know what they call these people, transgenders, whatever they call them, it doesn't matter. But it's a man who identifies as a woman. This man dresses as a woman. He wants to have the appearance of a woman. And there's a controversy in the House as to whether or not a man who pretends to be a woman should be allowed to use the ladies' restroom. And, it's a bit of a controversy because he identifies as a woman, but he is a man physically. I mean, he is. So I actually support here the rights of women to have privacy. And I know personally, I wouldn't want any of my family members to have to share a bathroom with a man who identifies as a woman. That's not something that I think would make most women happy. So I think the women who work in the Congress, whether it's the members of the Congress or the many, many women who work there in the office building, do have the right to privacy. And they do have the right to say, you know what, this is my bathroom. And we don't want men walking into our bathrooms. I think women have that right, and that right of privacy. And it looks like, as it turns out, I don't believe this person is going to be allowed to use the Republican women's bathroom. I think they, each party, I guess, has their own section and their own bathroom, as I understand. But I think it's absurd. It's absurd for a man who identifies as a woman to use a woman's bathroom. That's a private place. That's a private moment. And I certainly support the right of any woman to have privacy when it comes to using a bathroom. I just cannot believe that this is even an issue, but I guess it is these days. Let me close by wishing happy number 55 to Ken Griffey, one of the great baseball players of our generation. Ken played most of his career with Seattle, and then he finished with Cincinnati. Just an absolutely great player, one of the super greatest players of our generation. He retired with over 600 home runs. I think he's got 3,000 hits. He was the MVP of the American League several times. Just an absolutely great player, one of the truly most wonderful players to watch that I can recall. He played in the late 90s into the 21st century. Just great, just an absolutely great player. And he turns 55 today. So happy number 55 to Ken Griffey. And I can tell you that as the father of three sons who were playing Little League and were getting into baseball at the time that Ken Griffey was a big star, he was as popular, probably the most popular player with all those kids out there in the Little League field was Ken Griffey of the Seattle Mariners. So happy number 55 to one of the greats, Ken Griffey. Thank you for watching. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.